What fact or statistic seems like obvious exaggeration, but isn't? Monsters Incorporated was released closer to the fall of the Berlin Wall than to the present day. Man, why you gotta be saying shut like that? Shbb okay. The Berlin Wall fell when I was about 1 year old. When I was 22, I got my first job out of college, and I was by far the youngest person working there. Most were in their 40s. When people asked how old I was, I would say, remember when the Berlin Wall fell? Yep, I don't. Those old guys got a kick out of that. You laugh about it now, but wait till the kids tell you that they don't remember 9/11. The state of Maine has more black bears than black people. Black bears. Black people. Blackluster Blacklactica. University of Maine graduate here. The only black students in attendance when I was there were the star center for the basketball team who we recruited from Virginia, 2 people stationed nearby in the US Navy, and the rest were our exchange students from the Caribbean or various African nations. The total student population was around 12,000, and of those only 24 were black. Yeah, but how many black bears went to University of Maine? Nintendo existed at the same time as the Ottoman Empire. What the duck? Ottoman Empire dissolved in 1922. Nintendo was founded in 1889 as a playing card company. Your father, your father's father, your father's father's father, and so on, stretching all the way back in an unbroken chain to the first cell. Each managed to find a mate and successfully reproduce. And you don't have a girlfriend? Yes, I do. It's a long distance thing. You wouldn't know her. I have pictures of us, but my phone isn't working right now. The original height of Mount Everest was calculated to be exactly 29,000 feet high, but was publicly declared to be 29,002 feet, in order to avoid the impression that an exact height of 29,000 feet was nothing more than a rounded estimate. So whoever made that claim was the first person to put 2 feet onto the summit of Mount Everest. 80% of Soviet males born in 1923 didn't survive World War II. I heard that after World War II, men would literally visit villages with the sole purpose of impregnating as many women as possible to get the population up again. A great time to be Russian. Kif, clear my schedule. Congress brings up Hitler 7.7 times per month. Edit, as requested, who is referenced more? Hitler vs. Jesus. Hint, Jesus. Adolf Hitler, 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 Adolf. Hi. That's enough for this month. They really need to find someone else to blame for their problems. It's been a few years. Pocahontas and William Shakespeare died less than a year apart, less than 150 miles away from each other. And Frank and Martin Luther King Jr. were born in the same year. Abraham Lincoln and Charles Darwin were born on the exact same day, February 12, 1809. Charles Darwin and Steve, the crocodile hunter, Irwin both owned the same tortoise. Neutron stars are so dense that if you dropped a gummy bear from 1 meter away it would hit the surface in a microsecond with the force of 1,000 nuclear bombs. A substance so dense that 1 pound of it weighs 1 million pounds. If you take an adult male blue whale and placed it long ways on a basketball court, the game would be cancelled. You could walk from North Korea to Norway and only pass through one other country. Also, your feet would be a little sore. You can sail from Canada to Canada in a straight line and never hit land, crossing through every time zone along the way that isn't already in Canada. 1 in 2 Australians will get skin cancer in their lifetime. Edit, as user that person right there pointed out, it's actually 2 in 3. Crikey. Radio astronomer here. You exert more energy when you unfold a single piece of paper than we have collected in all the radio waves we have ever collected from outer space. Jesus, I should just stay in bed. I'm wasting enough energy as it is. Right, all this work you're doing is only increasing entropy and accelerating the heat death of the universe. A 7-year-old girl in South Africa is more likely to be raped than to receive an education. The difference between million and billion is huge, relatively. 1 million seconds equals 11 days. 1 billion seconds equals 31 years. The difference between a billion and a million is 999 million. More silent films have been lost than saved. We live in an era where everything is saved, and it's hard to imagine such a massive loss of creative material. Plenty of films are lost, as late as the 1970s too. Or like how there was no video from Super Bowl for 40 years, because the networks reused their tapes and taped over it. Cleopatra was alive closer to the moon landing than she was to the construction of the Great Pyramids. Similarly, we live closer, in time, to the T-Rex than the T-Rex did to the Stegosaurus. If this is true, explain the land before time. Vatican City has a population of 2 popes per 1 square kilometer. I've often wondered, if the Pope met an antipope, would they annihilate each other, or do they attract like magnets? I think they would spin around a central point with their hats pointing towards each other. Not sure if totally relevant to the question, but in a room with 23 people there is a 50% chance that 2 people share a birthday. The average human is dead. The average human deserved it. If the entire population of China walked past you in single file, the line would take about 100 years because of the reproduction rate. Are they still having sex while they walk past you? Well, if it's physically possible, I don't see why not. According to former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, every 2 days human beings create as much information as we did from the dawn of time until 2003. And 99.99999% of that is cat videos, blogs, selfies and like rubbish. As a woman in the army, you are more likely to be raped by a fellow soldier than killed by the enemy. Documentary, Invisible War. As a male in the army, same thing. If you start in downtown Detroit and head south, you'll end up in Canada. If you start in downtown Detroit and head south, you'll end up shot or drowned. There we go. Almost 1% of American adults are in prison. Or that the US has 4% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's prison population. There are more potential unique shuffles for a single deck of cards than planets in the visible universe. You are the sole common factor in all of your failed relationships, arguments, and failures. Lucky for me then, that the sample size of my relationships is way too small to reach any conclusions. You can fit about $3 billion worth of plutonium into a showbox. Briefly, that's why you use a briefcase. Woolly mammoths and the Great Pyramids coexisted. If they were to film a show called That 90s Show similar to That 70s Show, and waited the same amount of years after the decade to begin filming, they would start the first season in 2017. Samsung is responsible for 25% of South Korea's GDP. If you don't have children you will be the first in a line going back to the very first living thing. Stop it mom, you're not getting grandkids. The world's population. How could there possibly be 7 billion separate minds all alive simultaneously? It is just such a large number one have trouble picturing the whole world in terms of population clearly. There's enough space between the Earth and the Moon to fit in all the rest of the planets in the solar system. Of all the mammals that are on planet Earth, 20% of them are types of bats. That's 1 out of 5. I did the math. In terms of species, yeah. In terms of total biomass, humans make up far more, mostly because of your mother. Since a human sperm cell contains 37.5 megabytes of data, and I have 215 million sperm cells, then I have an 8 petabyte ballsack. As far as I know, ejaculation is the fastest data transfer ever done by man. However, the packet loss is incredible. That half the world's wealth is held by less than 1% of the population. About 400 people in the US control more wealth and income than the bottom 150 million people. That's almost 50% of the population. All the ants in the world weigh about the same as all the people in the world. Rings true, all 3 of my aunts are huge women. Every 40 seconds a person commits suicide in the world. Isn't that person bored of committing suicide? The typical cloud weighs 1.1 million pounds. Cause of all that data, mate. If you could fold a piece of paper 52 times, I'm pretty sure that's the number, it would reach the sun. And 100 times will create a piece of paper as thick as the known universe. Vending machines kill more people every year than sharks do. If we were to put our hands in the opening of a shark, pick one, doesn't matter, as much as we did for vending machines, the numbers might not be correct anymore. Well, a shark has never withheld delicious snacks from me after I paid for them. There are more plastic flamingos in the US than real ones. That falling coconuts kill 150 people per year. 15 times more than a shark.